Have you ever noticed how, as human beings, we treat ourselves, or a lot of people treat themselves as the worst person they know? They treat themselves like crap. They call themselves fat. They think they're insecure. It's all their fault quite a lot of the time. And so the reason I want to speak about this is because I've just been to the gym and I'm in pretty good shape. But quite often I treat myself like crap and I call myself fat when I'm not fat. I say I'm chubby and all this kind of stuff. And I wanna talk about that a little bit, and I want to channel a message from that part of me that feels insecure, that doesn't feel feels insecurity. I want to talk from a channel perspective of insecurity and channel that message and see what comes through. And I feel like for me it's you're doing all this. I do all this work, it's inner work, and I've worked myself, my own insecurities and my own healing and all this kind of stuff. But then when when you suddenly become unconscious, suddenly it's like, oh, I should be in better shape. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. And really, if we were a bit kinder to ourselves, we would actually be able to take the better steps, I think. Let's channel the message and see channel this message and see what comes through. First thing, James, I want to encourage and to acknowledge your bravery to show this part of yourself to the world. Because this part of yourself, the part that I am representing, the part that I am talking from, the part that I represent, feels insecure. He feels insecure. Feels like it's in the worst place it possibly can be. It feels lazy. It feels insecure. It feels angry. It feels frustrated. It feels like it should be somewhere better. It feels like it should be that perfect. It feels like it should be that perfect place that we all want to be. That place of, perhaps use a body as an example, that place of six-pack abs, muscles, all that kind of stuff. And so I want to acknowledge from that place how grateful and courageous you are for speaking from this place of insecurity, because showing this part of yourself to the world is a big step. And there's this level of human nature. It comes from this sense of human nature that we always want to be better. We want to be better at our health. We want to be better at our work. We want to be better at everything. And so there's this idea that sometimes if we're hard on ourselves, that's going to motivate us to kind of take the steps that we need to. But quite often, it doesn't motivate us. It actually makes us feel worse. And so we struggle to even take the steps. And so there's this idea that being harsh on ourselves, we actually feel like we're doing good for ourselves. But in the end, we're not actually doing good at all. We're actually taking ourselves back a couple of steps. And this is why you see this level of depression in yourself at times, depression or anxiety, because you are kind of looking at yourself from a raw, horrible perspective, and you see yourself kind of like, you should be doing this, come on, let's do this. But then it's not about that. It's about acknowledging that love for yourself, acknowledging the steps that you have already taken. Quite often you forget about the steps you've already taken, the steps which have got you to where you currently are. you forget about them, you don't celebrate them, you don't see them, and then you kind of start being a bit more harsh, like, come on, let's do a next step, next step, next step, with no break. And you can see that with the 3 or 4 days where which you had off recently, and where you started to see yourself as lazy, how everything that you've done up to that point is absolutely phenomenal, but you don't give yourself a break. You don't give yourself that time to prioritize rest, to prioritize space, to prioritize that you've done the work. Now allow something greater than yourself to help you, to assist, to help you to grow, to help you to be better. And so we see this idea that we are always trying to push ourselves, but sometimes we push ourselves in the wrong way. And that can be quite often by the words and the thing that we say to ourselves. And so it's acknowledging, firstly, that you are saying this to yourself, and then becoming conscious of those patterns which you have created. So say, for example, with myself here, now, there's this level of you saying to yourself that you're a little bit frumpy or a little bit overweight, you should be in better shape. But think of the steps that you've taken to get yourself there. And how much energy and how much how much energy it takes to take the steps. But the only way of rebuilding and strengthening those steps is by taking the rest, taking the break, acknowledging yourself that you are already a miracle. You are already loved, supported, and helped in so many different ways, including yourself. So the message I wanted to tell you is that the best thing we can do to ourselves is to slow down, become conscious of our patterns, acknowledge our patterns as wisdom, as guidance, as there to be heard, to be spoken with, and understand that these patterns are actually you just wanting to be heard and seen in a way that allows you to feel loved, supported. And so I feel like that is the message. The message is it just wants to be seen. This part of you that calls you fat or calls you overweight or calls you lazy just wants to be seen. And in that way, you can come into alignment. It can become part of the tribe. And then we're back in centuries and centuries ago, when there were tribes, if you were ousted out of the tribe, you would probably end up dying more than likely. Whereas this is exactly the same. It wants to be part of the tribe because it knows that it's supported, it's loved, it's guided. And so all these parts of yourself, whether it's laziness, whether it's yourself calling yourself fat, whatever it is, whether it's anger, frustration, just wants to be heard, wants you to hear its message, wants you to hear that it's there, wants to be seen, wants to be supported, wants to be heard in a way and is accepted and acknowledged. And that's it. That is it. But it's not about acknowledging and her hearing that. It's about putting that wisdom to work, using that wisdom in a way that helps you to progress, to move forward. Because quite often, them words you say you're fat aren't actually the message it wants to portray. That's just its way of wanting to be heard. So that's the key. It's not to take it to heart, but to allow yourself to become conscious of that word, become conscious of your patterns, and ask yourself, ask that part of you, what does it want to say to you? What does it want to say? And how can I hear it more? Thank you. Well, there you go. There's the message. Basically, what I got from that was that the key message here was that these things are saying that, like, I'm feeling fat, I'm feeling lazy. They aren't the message. The message underneath just wants to be heard. And for me, I feel like that saying I'm a lazy is just trying to be like an alarm system going off. And then you've got to kind of go in and look a bit deeper. What's causing the alarm system? What wants to be heard? What wants to be seen? So yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening.